from
Sure.
yeah, we'll move on here. Oh God, I'm on Puckpedia now, and there's a buyout calendar, a calculator. We'll go on here to thoughts on the team at the at midseason. I feel like we've kind of talked it about the general team, but we have our superlatives here. Um, I've got my mind on this, and I feel like it might overlap with at least one. But best player, I just went with Brendan Montour. I mean, if Jared McCann had kept up his pace from the beginning of the season, it would probably be Jared. Lord knows I love my youth pastor, but he really has slowed down quite a bit and kind of hit a nasty streak. And I think on a lot of teams that would be fine considering he is a guy that so often look to as a goal scorer. But when no one else knows how to put the little rubber thing into the nylon, it becomes a big issue. And it kind of seems like it's his fault when it really isn't. So I went with Montour. I mean, his contract, I was a little bit like, oh, and I also didn't know that the Kraken at the time of free agency were looking at a D-man. So I was like, what are we doing here? Um, but I'm not. I kind of quickly learned. I found out. And he's just been incredibly dynamic for this team. Vince Dunn could have been this pick too, just with how much instant impact he's added and all the numbers about, when he's on the ice, how much how many goals they score and how much better they are in terms of play. But I went with Montour just because he's largely been more available, right? Vince was out for a stretch of time, so that's what I went with here. Jade, will go with you, and then Sylvia, you can wrap us up in the best player department at midseason after that.
I mostly agree with Montour. I also have been a little bit blown away more recently by Bjorkstrand. Um, he's he just seems like I don't know, this sounds so bad, but he's just one of those guys that like you don't really think about that often. Like he just kind of is there. Like I like thinking back to last season, I knew when he was on the ice, but I never really like I don't know, I feel like he was just kind of just a guy to me, like not really standing out. And this year I feel like he's kind of stood out to me a little bit more. Um I think he has what, 13 goals or something this season. So like obviously that's not the biggest part of a standout player, but I don't know, there's something that's just sticking out to me this year and I can't quite pinpoint it yet. So I'll circle back to that in a few episodes, but him and Montour.
Sorry, I was drawing a circle.
Oh, okay.
Sylvia, go ahead.
All right. Um, I'm gonna go with Schwartz. I think when you like lose a captain, the way we've kind of lost, our captain here to pregnancy, it sounds like. Um,
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
my captain. Yeah, I think like having players like that, having the veterans with all of this experience step up really makes a difference. And anytime I've heard any of the other players talk about Schwartz, it's always been about how good he's been in the locker room, how his presence there has really helped a lot of the rookies, even folks who aren't rookies, like just are your general season players. Also, I mean, his production's good. He's usually in the right spot when he needs to be. Yeah, I think for me, he definitely is. He's an impact player, and that's kind of what the Kraken need right now. You're not going to win if your players are all upset that they keep losing, and I think Jaden Schwartz really fleshes them out in that sense. So he's my pick.
Yeah, those are two great picks. I mean, Jaden Schwartz, I feel like I've always kind of known Jaden Schwartz has had that talent, but when you see the stretch like he had from the Vancouver game in Vancouver, when the tear he was on, I think when they came back in the Utah game, I just kind of looked at Jade after one of his goals and I said, I was kind of stunned. Um, it's and that's why when I talk about, roster shakeup, I was like, Jaden Schwartz is a guy that you probably don't want to lose because of his experience, his leadership, and his production. But he's one of your like arguably your better trade chips, in terms of guys who actually produce. Um, you
He's
know,
similar to Bjorkstrand for me, where like he just kind of flies under the radar. Like he does a lot,
sure.
but like really
Oh, I see. I see. Like
does,
it's not flashy.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing that he does ever really like super sticks out, but he's there doing what he needs to be doing when he needs to be doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was trying to put a pin on that too. Yeah, no, I mean those are both guys who are productive in that sense, but they also, yeah, they don't really, I don't know, they're not guys who fight. They don't really do a bunch of flashy things. They don't talk. I mean, not a lot. I don't think there are a lot of hockey players who are super like big talkers isn't the best word because obviously chirping is a whole thing, but like, they're not a ton of like super brash players, at least in my mind. So yeah, no, those are two great picks. This one was kind of hard, at least in my opinion. I don't like. I feel like if the season had gone better, I'd have more positive surprises to look into. But I've only really kind of got two here, and they're tough because they start with this idea that I was thinking of them negatively. Um, Not so much with Riker Evans. Riker Evans' point production has been surprising to me because, when he was up last year and he was really only getting games when, Brian, like Dumoulin was hurt or someone was hurt, right? And then they kind of started to give him more run at the end of the year. Um, excuse me. Uh, he it just seemed like it was impossible for this guy to get a point. I was like, just get an apple, dude. Just get the secondary assist. Like, and I'll never forget when he scored that first goal and you guys know that Arizona had a team when he scored in Arizona down there against the Coyotes. Like, I'll
No.
never forget the reaction. Don't even stick with that. Um, how happy he looked, how his teammates looked, how the internet kind of blew up about it. Like it was pretty cool. And so I didn't really expect, I was like, this guy's never going to get a point. He's not going to be a point producer. He's already got 5 goals this season. He's got 14 assists, like nearly 20 points in 42 games. That isn't like, obviously, he's not going to win the Norris, but I didn't think he'd produce that much. And he's done a lot better. Like, I remember the first month, I was like, wow, he's actually on the score sheet. Like, he knows how to do that. So that's been a positive for me. I like seeing that. And it's why like I would prefer to not move Riker Evans, going back to what Friedman said about, the potential D-man trades. And then the other thing was, and I did this video, I did the like reaction after Joey signed his extension with RJ from Milam City Hockey. There's a lot of talk about the dangers of signing a goaltender, especially not like a super young one, which Joey's not old, but he's not like a spry young little chap either to a 5-year deal with decent term. Like there's concern, and there was thought, last year was Joey's real only extended period at the NHL level. I was concerned. I was like, what is this guy going to show me, as arguably the 1A guy coming into the year, and he's done pretty solid. I mean, we're sitting here um, after the Detroit game. Obviously, the team itself has been terrible over the past week, but he's got 13 wins, a 2.49 goals against average. He's over 900 save percentage. Obviously, goalie stats are fascinating, and they're not strictly the goalie. But I was a little worried, honestly, coming into the season about what he might look like if last year was a fluke or if he'd be able to handle the same sort of workload this year. And I you know outside of whatever the hell happened in that practice in Colorado when he got the upper body injury, he's been pretty solid. So Silvia, will go to you. Positive surprises this season, and then Jade, have you wrap up this superlative after that.
The Kraken fandom resilience, I would say. No, okay, so I like teetered and tottered. I did both between uh Chandler and Brandon Montour because I think there was a lot, nope, yep, Chandler Stevenson, that is his name. I think there was a lot of conversation. There was a big reaction to their acquisition over the summer, especially, their contracts. Um, I know Chandler Stevenson not having the best time. I do think, correct me if I'm wrong, please, stats boy. I think he's third in the team for points. Um, he doesn't look his best on the ice, but he's producing. And I think, you know, that says something. I think I know I joked a lot about Brandon Montour becoming the captain or the off season into the start of the season. And I mean, I still think he could have done it. But I think I didn't realize how impactful he was going to be for this team and how much he was going to carry the team. A lot of the time, even in his worst games, he's often one of our best players. So yeah, I think probably Brandon Montour is kind of my biggest surprise in like the positive sense of, this is I know he just won a Stanley Cup. I know he's a good player, but is he good enough to stand out on this team? And he obviously is, because our team isn't that good anyway. So um yeah, Brandon Montour.
Um, I think my biggest positive, I'm kind of flip-flopping between a couple, but I think my biggest one was the way that Grubauer performed when Joey was out most recently. We see a lot of Grubauer hate on Twitter and various platforms. But I think that he really, and I know that this isn't the case from all the time, but he really I feel like did a good job when Joey was out. And I was a little bit blown away by that because I know how the team performs in front of him, and I know uh oh, I saw something on Twitter earlier that was like he's an average performing goalie but has a, not so great team, which makes him look like really bad or horrible, or I can't remember the exact wording that they use, but I really agree with that. I'd say 95% of the time. Like usually there's like a he could have saved that, he didn't. Okay, whatever, it's just one goal, it's fine. And then there are times where it's like, okay, where are you guys at? Why are you not where you're supposed to be? So I feel like when Joey was out most recently, the way that Grubauer stepped in was uh, probably one of the best parts of the season for me, if I'm being honest, because
Yeah,
it just
no,
was
well,
nice to see that happen.
yeah, no, that was the thing too, and we talked about it on a show right a few weeks ago about what this looks like if Joey's out an extended period of time, and I was worried he would combust if
Hmm.
we had to ride him that long, and I mean we're kind of seeing not great stuff right now, but also the team isn't playing too great right now.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I mean that was a big thing, and part of my worry coming into the season, if is Joey going to be able to handle that workload, and part of that does go to availability. It's like, well, can you rely on Grubauer, who continues to get older? People don't get younger. It's not a thing. Um, like, are you going to be able to rely on him for that? And I mean, he came on and did that. It's not like the team played too much better in front of him, but and then to Sylvia's points, uh, it's completely with Brandon Montour. Absolutely. I mean, like there are nights where he isn't maybe igniting offense or that sort of thing, or joining the rush like he has at points during this season. But he's had so many times where he's the one where a puck is like sitting in the blue paint and he just is there. He's the last line of defense when he necessarily shouldn't be. And that's instinct. That's watching. It's just like if that was something that everybody can do, Josh Mahura would be doing it. Like and then with Stevenson, yeah, I mean, again, it's like I'm tired of the talk about the contract because again, it was talked about all season anyway, and in the off season. I just get tired of beating a dead horse. Um, you know, and even in the moment, like it was known he wasn't a goal scorer. Like the book on him at the time, and I remember because Sylvia wrote about it and I edited it and we pushed it out. he's a distributor. As he in I hope as stat boy, I did my job because I did thumbs up about him being third in points here. He's well, technically he's tied for second with Schwartz at 29 behind McCann with 32. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to go that far, he's got the 24 assists, which isn't nothing, obviously, because I mean it's part of goal production. Uh, but yeah, I like this idea that he needs to score goals. He wasn't a goal scorer in the beginning, so it's like asking a fish to fly. Like you can't. He doesn't know how to do that. So I don't like depending on him to do that is stupid in my opinion. Jade.
If you go into last season too, I wrote about it for Inside the Rink, but last season with the Knights, he was in 75 games and had 51 points. A majority of those were assists. So like just to additionally feed into what you guys are saying, he's not a high goal scorer. Like it he just isn't he's just not that guy and that's okay because he makes up for it in other ways. And so you don't see his name pop up every single game for a goal, but he tends to kind of go under the radar with assists or even if it's a secondary assist, that's still an assist. And um I don't know. I don't not to feed into the shit that people say. I don't love the contract either, but the Kraken need the help scoring goals that comes from people that are good at assisting in a goal. There's kind of a you kind of have to take that in consideration, in my opinion. So
Yeah, and I mean even to that point, like it, it wasn't the worst thing to sign a distributor either because it's like, okay, maybe that gets Jared McCann more looks at the goal so he can actually because last season, if you'll remember, Jared McCann was playing center at times down the road, and he shouldn't have been doing that. He's a guy who can score. He's got a great shot. Like maybe a Stevenson would be able to get him the puck more. Jaden Schwartz the puck more. Oliver Bort. They're like the idea here was to get those wingers, better looks. It's funny they have Schwartz listed as a center on here. That is not correct. Uh, um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm just tired of it, and like I'm not either like extreme in either direction. Like he needs to be on this team moving forward, or you need to buy him out tomorrow, or I will combust. But like
I also think
he
that this is the first season with new coach, a couple new bigger pieces to the team, and the way that people are just writing off every single change that's been made
yeah
since the end of last season, it seems a little bit premature in my opinion.
yeah it's all made worse because you're losing,
Yep.
right? So we'll continue with the negativity here. Uh, we might have a few of these, so I'm anticipating multiple, but biggest letdown that can be performance. I mean, if you say the team, like we've already kind of talked about that, but this is more player based. I had a lot of hope for Andre Burakovsky bounce back. I was like, hey, had the offseason, you're healthy, just get back in the right mindset. And he hasn't been able to do that, you know. I don't know if there's anything. I mean, that's kind of been it. But obviously the big one is the the success of the team. But I guess the other thing would be to go back to what Sylvia mentioned earlier in the episode and what we've talked about throughout the course of this show, um, is the lack of going to the hard areas. Because obviously last year, you see how hard it is for you to score. Why aren't you going to the dirty areas? Why aren't you trying to get a difficult goal? You had all off season. You talk about we're gonna improve upon it. We're gonna do better, and then you're not doing it again this year. Those are my things. So Jade will go with you to talk about our disappointments, and Sylvia can wrap us up in that regard.
I'm gonna keep mine really short and simple. Uh, the defense has been a really big disappointment for me this year. And that's one of those things that I feel like I talk about every game. I don't know, or at every game after every game on every episode of this that we've done so far, I tweet about it a lot. Just the defense, just feels and seems and looks non-existent most of the time. That's it.
Yep. I'll tag on to yours and say the offense for me, where like if our defense suck, we should at least be attempting a shot on goal. Like
Hmm.
there have been times, I think when the last time I was watching a game like in person, I think might have been the Pride game where like we are consistently having periods where there's maybe two, three shots on goal the entire 20 minutes. Like that is just a wild number to have in a hockey game where you can just shoot from wherever technically, right? If you're not finding lanes, if you're not seeing lanes, like just shoot the puck and see what happens. I think like that's one of the biggest ones. The other one is the turnovers. Like it's just every shift, every player, every time the Kraken have the puck, it is like they're losing it on turnovers. It's upsetting to watch. Yeah, I think those have that the offense has just been kind of like you have one job and it is to shoot and you're not doing it. So really the entire team is just gone when you think
Yeah,
about it.
I'm laughing at the turnover thing because I've said this so many times at games. I've Charles has been talking or, observing himself, and I'm over there like, what? Why are you not just passing the puck to the person that's right behind you? Why are you just trying to do like a drop pass thing and then there's nobody that what stop turning the puck over, pay attention to what you're doing. But also, you've said this before and I've reiterated it. Stop thinking so much about what you're doing. I feel like there's just not really a fun like a there's they don't have a middle ground between thinking enough and thinking too much.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely feels like, and I think biggest example of this is Matty Beniers, where he's trying to create plays where his other team members, his line members, are just not seeing it. So at the end of
Hmm.
the day, nothing is happening. And then when there are plays to be made, when there are places he should be passing, it's not happening. So I
Yep.
think like you said, the team is either overthinking, trying to do a quick little pass, maybe it'll
Hmm.
happen. They fully lose the puck, or they're just not shooting at all and just not even getting to like the net or where they're supposed to be.
Yep. I agree.
All good points. I mean, it is always to go back to the shooting of the puck. Um, it is always fascinating, like with Jaden Schwartz to go back to the Schwartz man, like especially that tear he got on beginning after the break. I think I told Jade this. I was like, at this point, just let him fucking shoot. Like, be selfish because when he's got the talent to make it work, and whether it is actually, something that might trick a goalie or it creates a rebound, like you shooting benefits your teammates because they aren't doing it. And this will kind of lead me into the last sort of superlative before we talk about a few topics that have become more relevant over the past few days. Um, about hope for the rest of the season. Like Phil Kako has been able to come into this franchise and he does a lot of things already for you offensively that you really wish other players could do. I mean, it'd be cool if they were all as tall as he was, but they're not. They're one of the smaller teams in the league. Um, right? But I mean, Kako does go to the net. He has shown his ability to pass, as seen, in the Vancouver and Utah games. But he also has generated shot volume. Like you look at the box score, right? Um, and he always seems to have a good amount each game, and for a guy who has the size and the build that he has, that's not necessarily something I'd expect from him. So to see him do it is encouraging. I just wish other guys would follow suit, as I mentioned with Schwartz. Um, yeah, hope for the rest of the season. I mean, knowing that we have our wonderful, ever shining beam of optimism in Silvia, right? Um, it just doesn't look too good. Um, so what are the hopes for you guys for the rest of the season? Is it an individual thing? Is it a team-based thing? I would just love to see some of the younger players in a Taco, in a Shane Wright, even obviously Maddie, which it doesn't feel right adding him into that just because he's been around for the 3 years, but still counts. And if anyone else gets called up at this point in the season, I mean, you could add Ty Cartier, but it kind of feels like he will always kind of be a fourth line guy. I don't know. I feel like he's reached his ceiling to an extent. I just want to see the younger forwards really get more run. I'd like to Sheen from yeah. Uh I'd like to see Shane Wright get more minutes. I mean, he's playing less minutes than what Macklin Celebrini gets in San Jose. He's getting less minutes than what Uri Slavkovsky gets in Montreal. I'm not calling Shane Wright those guys, but I am saying that, with what he has shown throughout the course of the season, with how things have gone, I don't see what is stopping you from giving him more minutes. And especially with how the season has trended, I would just let the young kids ride it out. Like I would be more than happy for that. Get them more NHL experience. Let them learn from these game experiences because you can practice drills all you want. You can hit the ice, with your team all you want. Getting the game action makes you better. So that's what I want to see. I would love to see, you know, those those main three of Beniers, Wright, Kako just kind of get more run. Silvia will go to you, and then Jade will wrap us up on sort of our mid-season superlatives here.
I also had the use of younger players. I would love to see them just, get that ice time, just be used more dynamically, be used to their strengths a little more rather than the strengths of our core team that we already have on there. Kind of let them be a little bit more creative with their game. Um, and also so I'm obviously not in the locker room. I'm not in these guys' heads, but I think that something the Kraken do not emit, I don't know a different word in English for this, um, they don't present, I guess, is a want to win, right? And like you can see it in the interviews that they give after losses. You can see it in the interviews that they give after wins too, where it does not feel like they're hungry for it. And I think that's what this team is missing. They're missing a reason to be hungry for it. And if losing day after day isn't it, then I want to know what it is and I will buy it off Amazon for them. I'll give it to them as a gift. But like I think like that's what I'm hoping for is I'm hoping then maybe it comes with newer players. So it comes with younger players who, first time in the NHL or like the first time in the big show, like this want and this passion to win that isn't just another day at CPA kind of thing, which is kind of like that's kind of the vibes I've been getting from the team. It's definitely the vibes that I've been getting from the fans. So like at what point, is there a change up there?
I agree with a lot of that. To the like, do you want to win point? Me and one of my group chats were talking about it earlier today that they don't seem scared to lose. Like losing just kind of feels like the norm at this point, and that's fine if you're intentionally tanking the season, but that's not quite where they're at. Well, they're quickly creeping up to that point, but uh up until recently that doesn't really seem like where they've been at. So I don't know. I would like to see more consistency from the team and hopefully not three more 6-2 wins, losses back to back to back in a row. Just consistency and a little bit more drive.
Yeah, I think the drive and the sort of the consistency because either way, whether they were consistently terrible or they were consistently mediocre or consistently good, any outcome in that regard makes them a like this season less maddening, but you see
Hmm.
the stretches where they show potential. You see the games where they go up against a top team in the league and they fight them hard for 60 minutes and they either come within a goal or two or they win it. And then you see them just absolutely get, smacked in the mouth by Cbus, by Detroit, the god awful stretch in San Jose and Anaheim. Um, it's just like, and that's the thing as well. We've said this on the show. Over the course of their existence, they haven't been consistent because they were bad in year one. They did great in year two, and they've been mediocre to now horrible the last 2 years. Um, they aren't consistent. It's not in their DNA. So it makes it more frustrating. And to Sylvia's point, and as Jade added on as well, there are just too many games where, yeah, it just seems like it doesn't matter to them. They don't care. Maddie Beniers was interviewed after this was being recorded the night of the Detroit game. He said they just didn't come out to play. There's too many times where that is said post game. That is unacceptable. And it's that sort of thing where and this also goes to another point about how they talk about going to the hard areas and then they don't do it. Like, I got tired of Pete Carroll at the end of his time with the Seahawks because there were too many late game mistakes or undisciplined situations where after the game he goes, "That's on me. I got to be a better coach." You can't say that for 3 years and still be here. If it's 1 year and then you get it corrected in the off season, or if it is different things, but when it's different as like the same aspects, and you're saying that's on us, that cannot happen because then you're not improving. You're not improving, as in you're not trying. Well, you're not improving by not trying, or whatever you're doing is not working. Either way, it's time to move on. So,
I
that
feel
just
kind of the same way about the physicality thing. You and I keep hearing after every game where there's some sort of altercation, some sort of scrum, we want our identity to be more physical. And then I've seen a handful of times where there's plenty of opportunity to be physical and then they're not following through with that. So obviously I know, not every single chance that they have to be physical needs to be like somebody getting their ass beat on the ice or something. But like there are plenty of times where you can be a little bit more physical and kind of follow through with what you're saying. It feels that I guess kind of wraps back into the inconsistency where they're saying one thing and then doing the opposite, or saying one thing and doing like, not quite what they intend to be doing. So just, yeah.
it's just it's so sickening to hear this stuff all the time and then not see the improvement.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all those Kraken away games?
Kraken away games, making a push. I was thinking of coming here just because Rough and Tumble is the home of circling Seattle sports, only if that's okay with you.
I mean, I love that idea. Hope to see you here.